Okay, another weekly wrap up. Andres, thanks for joining me.
You're welcome, Kyle. Happy to be here as always.
Cool. So this time we're talking about there's three different titles or stories from this week's DXP report that we want to go over. Composability and MACH, are they the answer? Question mark. Context that Go Composable, the initiative Go Composable, we'll talk about that. And Exemplify announcing their partnership with Webflow, which is an interesting one. So why don't you get us started off with the composability and MACH article that we found this week?
Yeah, so the composability and MACH article, the title of the article is Composable Business the Most Essential Technology Trend to Meet Challenges of 2023 and Beyond? And this comes from Mark Ambassador-Jones for Computer Weekly /Tech Target. And first thing he mentions in the article is Gartner, a quote from Gartner. It says by 2024, Gartner believes that 70% of large and medium-sized enterprises will have composability as a key criteria for new application planning. So some reasons behind that are like the four principles of composability, which focus on more speed through discovery, greater agility through modularity, better leadership through orchestration, and resilience through autonomy. And this, given the current economic situation we're heading into, Kim Soon-Madsen, CEO of Umbraco, mentioned in the article, the economic situation will force companies to focus their budgets on technology that directly benefits customer experience and brings in more revenue. And then a bit further down, Steve Nolan, CTO at Boohoo, he mentions that MACH is absolutely the right way to go about it. So it seems that companies are going to be moving towards composability and MACH for the flexibility, adaptability options that they bring them.
Yeah. What's next?
Yeah, so in terms of why, this comes from Steve Nolan, the Boohoo CTO, why they decided to opt for MACH. So when they were working their previous legacy system, they found it was hard to make changes, and they needed to be more adaptive. So their original plan was to build on top of like their pre-existing systems, but they didn't really align. So then they jettisoned that plan of building on applications, which sat on top of their Sage system, and replaced it with a composable MACH architecture that was plugged into Microsoft Dynamics 365 ERP system. And eventually they centralized their multiple products into a single Akineo product information management system. So they're previously running on a Suite legacy, and this Boohoo's an online fashion brand, by the way. And they're previously running on a Suite, managing their entire e-commerce operation, essentially. And then they jettisoned that and shifted towards MACH.
Yeah, those in the UK will definitely know Boohoo, big part of the fashion industry in the UK. So they had some challenges though, right? So that's sort of them explaining why they moved away from like monolithic architecture. The article also talks about them having challenges with composable and MACH, right?
Yep.
What are they? Talk to me.
So when it comes to collaborating with other businesses, like supply chain, obviously e-commerce company need a supply chain, there's a need for suppliers to embrace a similar approach to managing data. So despite like MACH and composability promoting open, easy to use intentions, there's still complexities around how you can integrate everything effectively. And then the other challenge is if you drop your suite that performed all these different things for you, even your legacy system, custom, whatever you had before that performed multiple different capabilities, whether that's just the CMS, e-commerce, analytics, personalization, all those things. If you drop that and you move towards a MACH-based system, composable, you have to manage multiple systems, which can also lead to more overhead. So those are some of the biggest challenges. Yeah,
and this is probably the most common rebuttal against MACH architecture or composable architecture, that you do need to sort of move away from having these systems pre-built out of the box, all in one suite type of thing. You now have to go from that to building that from essentially not from scratch, but you have to go and select the best of breed systems for each of those different areas, personalization, so on and so forth. And that does take some time. It takes some expertise. You have to be careful with the sort of the selections you make there. Obviously, the selections are reversible, which is another pro for MACH over a suite, which when you purchase it, and that's it. There's not really too much flexibility there. But that it is a valid argument, a sort of like one of the drawbacks of going composable, right? You do have to sort of build it out yourself. That doesn't mean that sticking with monolithic is a better idea, but it is still a valid argument. The solution to this, right? The solution to the challenges that come with building rather than just buying is that you do need to be using very experienced agencies to sort of help guide you, essentially, right? They need to not just have experience working with the CMS you've chosen, but they need to, and especially going forward, which we've spoken about many, many times, they need the agency that you choose and the vendor that you choose, they need to have experience with, either they've got integrations currently existing with lots of different tools that you're already using or want to use, or they're very knowledgeable about your particular type of project, and therefore they're familiar with a lot of integrations that you may want to use. That's going to play a much, much larger role going forward, right? Because you're going to need to build. If the integrations exist, they may not exist in the way that you need them to exist, right? Every business has specific use cases for integrations, right? So there may be a Salesforce integration existing with the CMS that you choose, but that integration may not do exactly what you need it to do. So you may need to rebuild an integration or just put it from scratch to do what you need it to do. And that goes for, again, personalization, analytics, PIM systems, CRM systems, all these different things. It's the same sort of problem replicated for every sort of area of your business. So you need to make sure you're choosing an agency that has experience with all those different areas that you need help with, to make sure they're going to guide you in the right way. We keep coming back to this question of agencies and their knowledge being pivotal, right? It's going to be even more pivotal going forward, because as this MACH architecture trend or paradigm shift keeps going, we're going to see more enterprises who are moving away from one large monolith that did it all to hey, we now need to sort of, we need a lot of that functionality. We need someone to help us build that using the best of breed systems, but we don't know what the analytics or the search market is like. We need someone to help us select the best one, but also the best one that works with our headless CMS that we've chosen and the headless commerce system that we've chosen. There's a lot of complexity there. So again, this is going to fall back on the agency, right? The enterprise can't be, expected to know all these different dimensions and different software landscapes, right? The vendor, the headless CMS vendor, they will only go so far, of course, with that. It's up to the agency, the system integrator, to say, okay, we have enough experience, or at the very least at this point, enough knowledge of the landscape to know, okay, when it comes to search, here are the top 4 or 5 products that we can sort of verify will be sort of up to scratch for enterprise. Same for analytics, same for this, same for that. So there's going to be a lot more burden on agencies to get this stuff right, because we're just going to see a lot more companies moving away from, hey, we had it all in the box, and now we need to build the box from scratch, and we don't know how to do that. So I think it's a good argument against MACH. It's not an argument not to go the MACH route, of course, but the solution is use experts. Use experts to help guide you there, so that you're not choosing the wrong systems, so that you're not overpaying for the wrong systems, or even overpaying for the right systems. That's a solution. That is a solution. Why don't you move on to the go ahead if you have anything else to add to that.
I was also just going to add that even if we're talking about agencies being a key component, it's not just going to be one single agency in some cases. So it's going to be important for agencies to partner with each other as well, not just
absolutely,
because there's so many different packaged business capabilities, as they like to say, in composable thing, so much different functionalities to take into account. Same way one vendor or enterprise can't be expected to know everything on one thing. Even one agency might not be expected to know everything about each different component.
Absolutely, very, very true. And I think we're going to see sort of shades of this now with this next story, which is Content Stack's Go Composable initiative. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
So Content Stack, they just launched their Go Composable initiative, and it's designed for enterprises globally, and it provides practical solutions for selecting and integrating best-of-breed technology into composable architectures for digital experience creation. So the overall goal of the Go Composable initiative is to help enterprises retire their legacy infrastructure, retire their suite infrastructure, and move towards composability. And just like in the previous article, they raised a few of these challenges and issues with MACH composability. I think Content Stack, they've kind of recognized this themselves, and they understand that, hey, we still need to do more to help these companies going forward. So in the press release, Nia Sempat, Contest's founder and CEO, said, "We anticipate 2023 will bring many challenges and want to remain the trusted advisor that helps enterprises confidently tackle those challenges. We're strong believers in the total economic impact of moving from expensive monolithic systems to composable architecture. Go Composable is in place to provide peace of mind and a human touch every step of the way." And they also got a quote from Bob Howland, Chief Digital Officer at Dawn Foods. They're a client of the Go Composable and Content Stack. "We knew we needed to go composable, and we were looking for a true partner that wouldn't let us fail. With Content Stack, we found that just that and much more. It helped us to make our journey viable, technically and economically, with a never fail attitude and commitment that is unparalleled in the industry." So it seems like Content Stack is kind of blending that agency partner thing that we think needs to happen as the vendor.
Yeah. Firstly, I like how Bob Howland or whoever wrote that quote managed to fit Go Composable into the quote like that. It's very, very clever. I find it hard to imagine him actually saying that. But yeah, this is really interesting because it's basically what we just said, which is like, this is basically Content Stack saying that we'll play the role of a digital agency in a specific way. So they're basically saying, we'll help you select. It seems anyway, we'll help you select the different components of DXP with Content Stack as the foundational piece, right? So I don't think they're totally eating into their partners like pie, because it seems to be mainly like education, consulting, and like some hand holding in the early stages of the project, helping them sort of understand what their roadmap will look like and what their technology stack should look like. And then it seems like, they'll hand it off to a partner of theirs who will actually handle the migration, the implementation, and so on and so forth. So it seems very much like, education and consulting type thing. But it's interesting because, as we just mentioned, there's complexities now with a lot of enterprises moving away from these large all-in-one systems that they build themselves. It seems that Content Stack, sat down and said, do we really trust, more than a handful of our agency partners to sort of educate them and hold their hand, enough to sort of get them out of that situation into a situation where Content Stack is the foundation, they can build on top of it, in a MACH composable way. And, clearly, they thought they could do a better job on that sort of hand-holding, education, consulting, role in initial stages, which is interesting. And I wonder if any other sort of vendors will follow them down that path. It is a sort of a tightrope because, again, you don't want to step on the toes of your partners. But I do think it's a good idea. I think, this is definitely one for the vendors with larger budgets, because I think this is like this is not like a simple initiative to launch. I don't think it's quite, each customer that becomes a client of this initiative is going to need a lot of expertise and like relatively, hands-on 24/7 type thing to make sure they're making the right calls and the right investments. So yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good initiative. I think they've played their hand well, not sort of biting too much into their partners' pies. But yeah, definitely interesting. And again, just another indication that a lot more education and collaboration is going to be needed, this year, next year, the year after, just to sort of help people make this migration away from monolithic to MACH.
Yeah, and on that, I'd like to add that I know because we always talk about like the agencies being probably the first port of call for any enterprise that wants to go composable, but I think that's also, we need to factor in, that's usually when they've made the decision after doing research themselves, after diving into what's on just what they find in Google, what's on these different vendor websites, what's on social media, and et cetera. Yeah. So I think something like this is a good way for companies that take that first step of helping to, as mentioned, educate in the early stages, and then it's like, okay, when they go to an agency partner, they might not know, or they might not decide that Content Stack's right for them, but they at least know a bit more about what composability is, what MACH is, and like where they fit into all of it.
Yeah, good point. Now let's move on to our third and final story: Exemplify and Webflow partnering up.
Yeah, so Exemplify, so web development agency for enterprises, has partnered with Webflow, who consider themselves a no-code CMS platform. And what I found interesting about this is they seem to be making an anti-headless argument as part of their partnership. So, as part of the announcement, they mentioned that one of the biggest challenges, like basically how any sort of website revamp, new launching, whatever goes on, it's like, let's get a website going. We'll figure out the rest later. And then as startups' growth accelerates and the marketing teams ramp up, these early decisions significantly impede their marketing velocity, resulting in technical challenges. So technical challenges that we've heard these quite often in terms of like even going headless or dealing with legacy systems is we have to go to our developers for everything, can't independently launch landing pages, can't rapidly assemble a few widgets and launch a page without a complex layout, can't push changes to production quickly, it has to go through build and deploy process internally, and you lose that time to market and speed that's very, very necessary today. So to address these challenges, Exemplify is providing two solutions that cater to the unique needs of high growth tech startups. First is move from headless, which I found interesting, and move from legacy. So Exemplify, they've had experience working with different early stage headless CMS products, Strapi, Contentful, Prismix, and the ones they named. It said that some of these moving from these systems can be tricky because platforms operate on cutting edge tech stack, robust CI/CD workflows, and associated DevOps. So they want to move. They want to promote with this partnership, I think, moving people towards no-code platforms like Webflow to make, I guess, building websites easier. But I feel like this isn't. I think maybe a few years ago, this would have been probably hitting the nail on the head because headless, I think, is a little bit challenging. But now it seems like an interesting partnership out there.
Yeah, I think this is legit, and I'll tell you why. I think they've tapped into a small market here that like they're a tech startup, i.e., and what they mean by that is they've just raised money. Right, because Exemplify, they're an enterprise development agency. They're not just like a small time company. It's a tech startup that's just raised money, but a lot of tech startups don't have very intricate online presences. Right, their websites are static content mostly, and there's just not much there that needs a headless CMS. Right, and if you go back to my interview with Loan from Trellis. He was talking about how many a time customers will come to them and they'll say, hey, we've heard about this headless commerce thing. We want to build a headless commerce, infrastructure. And once they hear about the company, Trellis will sometimes turn to them and say, you guys just don't need like this whole headless route. You guys can use BigCommerce or Shopify and still be absolutely fine. Like you don't need to go this extra sort of step or extra yard, if you will. And it seems like Exemplify is trying to find those companies who did take that step, specifically with the move from headless initiative, who maybe overcomplicated their tech stack when they didn't need to, and maybe regret that. And they're basically saying, look, you didn't really need to leave the sort of world of Webflow and Shopify and this sort of no code platforms. Come back, we'll help you come back, we'll help you do it properly, we'll help you make it just as good, but in this no code way. So I don't think this is like. And it is anti-headless to a point, but I don't think this really detracts from headless or Mac in any way because they're almost talking to people who missold Mac to themselves or missold headless to themselves. Which again, with the content out there, it does happen, right? Like I said with Trellis, they get customers who sort of are convinced they need it, but actually they don't. So it seems like that's the case. And I think I'm not sure how big that market is, but clearly they see an opportunity and they've jumped on it. So yeah, I don't think they've been anti-headless. I just think like they're just going for the companies who were missold headless maybe, or missold themselves on headless. Yeah, fair enough. Smart. I don't know how smart it is, but I think it is smart.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah. Okay, that's our 3 stories. Andres, I enjoyed this one. Thank you very much.
No problem, man. See you next time.
Yep. Okay.